Today I want to talk about the secret, the key to not remaining mediocre or average in the areas you're trying to achieve greatness in. And that is stacking 1% improvements over time and reaping the benefits. This is something that Andy and every business coach or guru I've ever had or ever listened to has tried to hit me over the head with in terms of wisdom until I got it. And as is the case with a lot of things when it comes to me, and probably a lot of you too, I don't get it until I do it, experience it, and see the results of it for my own self. And this has been one of the biggest things over the last year. Pretty much this is the year that I have recognized the value of aiming for these small incremental improvements every day or every session that you go into it over time. And then 6 months to a year after doing that, you look back and you're like, holy fucking shit, look how far I've come, look what I've built, look how good I've gotten, etc., etc., etc. This really is the key. And you've probably heard Andy say it tons of times. He loves the book called The Slight Edge. He's a big fan of this. And that's very much about the overall message, which is show up, aim for small improvements, but do it every single day. Do it consistently. Get these runs together where you're just, you're showing up, you're showing up, you're showing up. And some days you don't always go forward, especially when you're new at something, you're a beginner, you're struggling to get a grip with it. But this is really, the benefit of this isn't necessarily getting you past the learning curve or getting you past the beginner stage. Getting past the beginner stage is really like, kind of hitting your head against the wall until you get around the learning curve. This is more like, how do we break out of that pain period in the middle? How do we break out of being in the mediocre period? Mediocre is the wrong word. I did say mediocre earlier, didn't I? How do you break out of that period where you're kind of in the average of people who are doing what you're doing, whether that's in business or fitness or dating or what else do we do on this channel? Those are really the main things men want, isn't it? Those things. There is this long pain period of being in and around the average, in and around the crowd, and how we get out of that, how we get to a stage of impressive results, objectively unbelievable results, the sort of things you can put on like a CV or a resume, but I mean the sort of things you could put on your fucking gravestone, that kind of stuff. That comes from slowly building up these improvements. Part of that is because once you get more advanced, or once you get closer to being more advanced at something, you recognize a lot of your growth potential has kind of, like the areas you can take massive jumps and massive leap forward, they start to diminish a little bit. They start to go away as you get further towards the elite levels of things. And it's kind of annoying from a motivation perspective, from a satisfaction perspective, to no longer have these areas of massive improvement. You can just go and go crash course style into it, like with approaching, or definitely with dating. This happens a lot in dating. In the early stages, first 6 months to a year, you have so much new stuff to experience in so many areas. You can make massive, like 100%, 200% gains you can make really quickly. What's the example of this? Like if you have never done an approach before and you go out and you do your first ever approach, you haven't just gotten better by like 1% or 40%. I don't want to get really into the nitty gritty of percentages here. It's not really about that. But like the amount of leap forward you've taken from going from never having done an approach to talk to a girl that you've never met before and asked her out and asked for her number, that's a crazy amount of growth, okay? Once you get 2 years down the line, you've done thousands of approaches, the amount of growth you can go for, it's diminished, it's gone down. It's gone down to a level that is making it a little less satisfying. At times you feel like you're going backwards. At times you feel like you're not making the leaps forward with, I guess, your game in this instance, or the results you're having with girls, or the standard of girls you're getting out onto dates. This is where this starts to become really important. Having this mindset of 1% improvements, this is where it starts to really become important. It's really important if any of you are out there and you're in what you would consider a pain period right now. This is so critical. And I would hope that guys get this mindset into their heads early, even while they're still beginners and stuff. Like right now, I would say in the business stuff that I'm doing, I would say I'm very much in the pain period for most of this, especially with content. I'm growing a YouTube channel. It's a secret YouTube channel as far as this channel is concerned. We're nearly at, I think, 18,000 subscribers. We get like 250K views a month. I want to get that up to like 1 million views a month. And the pain period from going to this to the next bit, it's all about 1% improvements. Like there's not really much in the way of gigantic leaps we can do. You can't snap your fingers and just make viral content, for example. It's all about stacking the audience, stacking small improvements in click-through rates. It's all about, everything I'm doing, I'm just hunting for 1% improvements. And that is why I think it's critical to have the mindset about this early before you get into the pain period, so you don't just like fuck off and quit because you're just disappointed with how little progress you're making all of a sudden. You're disappointed that you feel like you're actually going backwards. And so this mindset will save you from quitting. And Andy and I are just so big on getting guys not to quit. Like, we know from looking at everyone who's ever succeeded in any of the stuff that we've coached, the guys who just show up every day, no matter how bad it's gone, no matter how lack of momentum, lack of motivation they're feeling, they still show up, they still touch base, and they still go out and put some effort in and put effort into improving. It's self-improvement at the end of the day. We're trying to get better. We're trying to, improve, stack these wins, stack this momentum forward. Every bit of experience you get helps and matters and pulls you forward. So Andy and I are always in the coaching group trying to get guys to touch base regularly, trying to show up every single day and focus on the small wins and small gains, where we actually celebrate small stuff quite a lot. And we call it small stuff, but it really isn't small. When a guy is just not feeling motivated, not feeling momentum, and they still show up looking to do something that improves them, looking to do something like, tokenary almost. Like, you go outside and say hi to the first person you see. It doesn't even matter if it's a girl, whoever it is, a random stranger. As long as you break that stranger barrier and your goal is, goal is cold approach, that's doing something that's getting more experience of talking to strangers in the bank, that pulls you further forward towards dealing with your anxiety. Guys who are a bit further along, they haven't quite got the dates they wanted for that week or whatever, so they go and hit the apps harder, they go and hit the streets and the clubs harder to try and meet more girls, and they are clawing for that improvement, they're clawing for that experience, and we love to see it. Like, it's incredible. And even on the days where you don't feel like you've got much to give, I've been trying to adopt this mindset and give it to other people as well lately, that you have whatever you give on that day. So like, if you only have, I'm using a lot of percentages today, aren't I? If you only have like 20% to give in a day, that is 100% of what you had to give that day. Don't spend a lot of time stressing over what you could have done, what you could have given. You had that amount of energy. The reality is you gave that amount. You weren't forcing yourself to give more when you know it's just not your day. It's probably going to harm you moving forward. So I would rather you just stood there, gave what you can give, and that was 100% of what you had to give that day. And the next day you might have more because you rested. The only job Andy and I really have is to get the clients, you guys, whatever, to give what you can on the day. And all of that racks into these small wins, these small improvements. We just keep the momentum moving forward all the time, looking for small stuff. This is the other thing about like work smarter, not harder. It's like, okay, we can do that. We can try and work smarter. We can try and find these areas. We can try and use a bit of creativity to put the reps in. But the hard work comes from that. It comes from putting the reps in, finding stuff that you can do to inch further forward, and then just repping that daily, every day. A month, 30 days of those reps. 4 months, 120 days of the reps you've been doing to move yourself forward. You're actually going to get better. And a lot of times you won't even notice. That's the other thing about these 1% improvements, these small victories, these small movements forward. They don't always feel like you are moving forward until you get a bit further down the road and you look back and you're like, holy shit. Like, I'm so proud of myself for every moment, every day I got up, every day that I only really had a small amount to give, but I gave it anyway. You will be so grateful to yourself looking back over a year, over 2 years, over 5 years, at all of the times you gave what you had to give and you inched that bit forward. You stacked that 1% improvement. You found the areas that you couldn't find before. Some days you will jump forward still as well. Some days you'll have those, holy shit, I've like found the thing that I was looking for in terms of those giant leaps forward. But it's not about hunting for those all the time. We have the daily improvements we can make. Stick to those and you'll generally find the leap forward kind of by accident. We're not always trying to go hunting for those. Now I've been working on the channel, my biggest project, for like 4 years now. And I can look back at the videos we made like 3 years ago and I can see where I've made the improvements, and doing the things the way I did them back then was all part of the process of moving to where I do the things now, which are so much more optimized. They are so much better received by the audience. we had to put that stuff out there in the first place to get feedback so we could improve it. So there's loads of everything I look back on, I'm proud and grateful to myself for having done it in the first place. I don't regret anything on that channel. It's fucking crazy. Like looking back, every single part of it is like a brick that I had to put in place to build the stairs, 1% increment of bricks, to just keep building the stairs so I can keep climbing and getting to where I am, where we are now with it, where we're doing a huge chunk of views that I never thought I'd be able to generate anywhere on anything. I didn't think I'd be able to build these sort of platforms. It's fucking crazy. Like when you start seeing the numbers in the back end. And I know Andy feels the same about his channel and the crazy growth that he's had. And this is not just about like Andy and I are going to talk a lot more about YouTube because that's what we're doing these days. But like in dating, it's the same. In the gym, you'll know this if you're a meathead bodybuilder, you know, or a powerlifter, you know that you can't do giant leaps forward with the strength. You have to start going slow. You'd be really happy if you could make a 1% weight increase on what you can lift. Use, you know, microplates, or you start going back and doing the training mesocycles where you do, what's it called? Where you do periodization training, where you basically plan to get to a certain number, but you have to go back down first and then climb back up again. I probably butchered all the technical terms there for training, guys. So don't hate me, gym nuts in the viewership. I did go to the gym this morning. I did train legs. I'm proud of myself what I did today in the gym. Something that is linked to this slightly that Andy and I have spoken about before that I would suggest to you as a practical suggestion is a 365 project. Andy's done like 4 of them at this point. I've done 2. Both of mine were content related. Doing 1 bit of content every day for 365 days. It was brutal both times. We are considering doing yet another 365. We don't quite know what we're going to do it on, but I might do something a bit more technical this time. Might do something maybe a hobby that I've always wanted to get really good at and do that every day because I haven't really done something like that. Everything's been like business related. But a 365 is the exact thing we're talking about. You start something with the plan to do it every day for a year. By the end of that year, it is essentially impossible to not have improved a significant amount from the start. And like I said, there will be giant leaps forward. So it won't be like, oh, it's 1% every day for a year, I'm going to be 365% better at the end of the year. No, you'll be like 1,000% better. Like there'll be just these giant leaps. But every day, if you're going to do one of these, do something where you can focus on like making small improvements all the time, every day. And just be like, yeah, keep track of the things you're trying to improve. Keep track of that stuff. It's interesting. Track the improvements you make. What have you gotten better at? Maybe at the end of the month, you just look back like, what have I gotten better at this month? And maybe you'll be able to spot the improvements. But I promise you, you will fucking spot the improvements at the end of the 365. When you look back, you're like, holy shit. And you just, like when I was doing video content, I could put the video from day 1 up against the video from 365th day and be like, oh, these are just like different worlds. So, if you're out there, back to the beginning of the video, like I said, you want to move on from being a mediocre or average at something to being elite, to being fucking insanely alpha god level or whatever you're aiming to be good at. 1% improvements. Showing up every day, trying to make these 1% incremental improvements. It is the secret. Right, if you guys are interested in coaching, consider joining Andy and I's The Winners Club, where we coach guys together on anything in their lives that they want to achieve and build the lives that they love. I'm going to roll a video of Andy explaining more about it now. Peace out till next time.
How long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself? These guys didn't wait. They joined my coaching program and gave themselves the life that they've been dreaming of. Taylor had a threesome, tons of sex, learned to be honest with his intimate partners, and fully embraced a more peaceful, happy, and loving mindset. Laz more than doubled his income from $25K to $45K a month, as well as having more sex than he could handle, all while fully embracing honesty and authenticity. Corky learned to love himself instead of always beating himself up. Oh, and he had a threesome, sex with 7 women, and started his own business. Want to do what they've done? Join our coaching program, and I and the other coaches will pour our heart and soul into giving you the life that you've dreamed of.